Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I am Dr. Vernita Glenn White. I go by Dr. V, and I am the CEO and founder of Glenn White Global Solutions, which is a high-level training and development company where we bring practical applications to complex situations. I am also a strategic transformational coach and consultant where I work with individuals or teams of people and I help them break their personal glass ceilings so they can show up more powerfully in their lives and careers. And who doesn't want that? You know, to rise to the top of your professional game, whether you're in business for yourself or with a company. And we can do that by, releasing all of the shackles, and really, it's not really rediscovering, but it's uncovering who we are and who we were meant to be. And I want to invite people on my journey to embrace brilliance, because I truly believe that if we embrace the unique gifts and talents that we have and actually share them in the world, since the law of interdependence is real, when we share our gifts and talents with each other, truly, the world can be a better place. All right, so if you are new to me, welcome. That was a small introduction of who I am and what I do. And then on this journey, you're in the middle of a series, because I love doing series. I'm doing the evolution of my career. So I already mentioned that I've transitioned into being a full-time strategic transformational coach. I am also a consultant, speaker, and author. However, I didn't always start there. I started way back, and I'm doing some presentations that I've done as a doctoral student leading up to when I became a college professor, and then some things that I've done as a consultant. And I got this inspiration from the quote, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So not that my content back in the day was trash, but it's like I don't really focus on some of these areas as in depth as I did before, but they can still be useful to other people now. I presented these at national conferences in front of hundreds of people. However, it just stayed in that little bubble. Once I did the presentation, that was it. And I remember people still coming up to me like, hey, can I get a copy of your presentation? And things like that. And I didn't have the right mindset to say, here, download it so I can get your information, or here's either a pre-recording or you'll get a recording after I finish, and then, or hire me as a consultant so we can actually do the work that you came here to hear. And I've been motivated or passionate about doing this work because, and this ties into now I can see this tying into being a coach, you have to get in action if you want things to change. And I realized over the years of doing all of these talks, and even as a classroom teacher, when I was, in instructional coaching, when I was leading workshops, nothing changes until you get into action. So all of these hundreds of people who would see me present, and when I say hundreds, sometimes it would be one in a room, and sometimes I would have to do the same presentation over and over for 30, 40, 50 people in a room at a time. So it varied. But people will want information, and then they didn't do anything with it. It was like, they were information junkies, just hoarding information. So I wanted to say, hey, here's what you do, here are the practical steps, but understanding that if you don't take action, then you just wasted your time. So that's that part. The other part is I want to challenge other people to share their brilliance as well. Because I'm not the only one out here who's been going to these conferences, presenting information, writing articles, which will be my next series, writing articles just for them to sit, what I call the ivory tower. So as a college professor, any universities are considered the ivory tower, and professional organizations, I'm going to lump them in there too, because everyone, especially the people who could value or who could benefit from this information, they may not always attend the conferences. They may not read the articles. So how are they going to get the information? And that's why the theme to my company is practical applications to complex situations. Or you can put in solutions if you want to, practical solutions to complex situations. You are someone's answer. Your information is someone's solution to their problem. So I'm inviting everyone who's in the professional space who have to do conferences and trainings and things like that. Go out and share them, make videos, put them on YouTube, and see where that can take you. All right, so let's get started. I did this at the American Association of Colleges and Teacher Educators, AACTE, in 2015. This was the last year of my doctoral program, so I was testing out my dissertation before I did my final defense. And like I've said in other videos, I've done way more presentations than I put in the series, but a lot of them are duplicates, and then a lot of them where I am co-presenter or second author. Those were my colleagues' presentations, and I just showed up to do a part of the presentation, so they weren't mine. So I'm only doing the ones that I did, and then the original ones, because I recycle these presentations. And if you go look at my CV, you'll see that the list is a lot longer than what I'm presenting here. All right, so that's another trick. See, I'm sliding in tricks and tips in there for you. All right, so this one, again, let me share my screen. I am talking about bridging the gap between leadership and content and an administrator's paradigm shift. Let's see if I can enlarge it. All right, I think that's a little better. So some people may say, why didn't I edit this and why do you see all the background? Because I cleaned up my desktop and I just didn't want to download it again to my computer. It's already in Dropbox, or some of them are in other clouds. So I didn't want to just clutter up my computer. And yes, I know I can delete them later, but hey, whatever. So I did this in 2015. I didn't change anything in the presentation. And I am redoing this for the first time with you all live. I didn't go through them because I wanted to just see my growth and be surprised, you know, just like you all may be surprised. All right, so the EDS there, I do have 5 degrees. I have my specialist degree, and I personally do not recommend anyone getting a specialist degree unless you're going to be a specialized doctor, like medical doctor somewhere. But hey, that's just me. You can let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you want to. All right, so with all presentations, we had an agenda. I will be reading the slides to you. This does not happen in real presentations because you're not supposed to read the slides, but for a lot of people who are listening, they're auditory listeners. So it's almost like we're in the era of podcast days where I don't really need to see you or look at the screen to hear you. So this is not to insult your intelligence, but it's mainly for those people who don't need to sit at the computer to hear what I'm saying, or they don't even need to look at me. All right, so the session agenda: introduction and purpose for being here, overview of terms, discussions, research, and implications for action. This was the session focus at AACTE at the time. The curricular imperative: innovative practices that embrace the new landscape of teaching and educator preparation. Who knew that becoming a coach, I wanted to work with high-level professionals and executive coaching, that I was preparing myself way back then during my dissertation. This session will address how school-university partnerships will benefit the administrator and teacher collaborative relationships in order to support teachers in the quest of becoming college and career ready. Back then, there was a real big push on college and career readiness. The focus had been on making sure everyone go to college. And then with the STEM initiative coming, it was like, go to school, major in STEM, go to college. But then people realized, like, wait a minute, one, everyone isn't meant to go to college. And I don't like to say everyone's not college material, because if anyone puts their mind to anything, they can do whatever they want to. And people who, I was a college professor, and I can look at some students like, how did you get here? So I don't ever want to say people aren't college material, but college readiness, and just some people some people just aren't meant to go to college, and you may not need to go to college. So career readiness is, what else can you do? How else can you prepare people to still be productive citizens in society? And truth be told, there are a lot of careers where people are coming out making 80 grand and above with no college degree, but the skill sets and trades are so valuable. And a lot of before then, vocational schools were big before, then it kind of died down. And now people are realizing, like, whoa, let's bring this back up, because people are going to school and for what? Got all these degrees and still not at the level of success that they want. But anyway, so that's a little background on college and career ready. This session will also address competencies that administrators must master to meet the needs of the teachers they support. Again, this is my dissertation, so mini background. And if you've been following me along the series, you know this, but if you're new, I started off as a classroom teacher, teaching mathematics. I moved into being an instructional coach where I was over or working with about 17 teachers in the mathematics department, from basic mathematics all the way up to calculus. I went to school, get my PhD, came back as a district specialist working with School of Transformation and helping both teachers and administrators. Well, actually, before I became a district specialist, let me back up. When I was an instructional coach, it wasn't just a regular just being over the math department. My high school was not a high of performing school. So we had a lot of people coming in from the state and the district, superintendents, associate superintendents, Florida state representatives, all of those people. And the big push was on why aren't kids performing in mathematics? And I think it was reading or language reading. Those were always the two critical areas. And my job was working with teachers, but then I realized it really isn't always about the teachers who are struggling. It's the leaders who are there, who are supposed to support the teachers. And having a mathematics background could be very beneficial for an administrator who's over the mathematics department to support their teachers. So that's where all of that came from, because I saw during like reading and research, all of our scores in the state were so low, but when the teacher evaluation tools came out, teachers were scoring highly effective. And it's like, if you're highly effective, but then your scores are still trash, there's a disconnect somewhere. So what are these administrators really seeing in the classrooms to score teachers to be highly effective, but then their students are not performing they're not getting highly effective results? That's the mini background of where this came from and why I did my dissertation, which I think I said I may do my dissertation defense. But anyway, that's the background. So let's move on. The goals for this session: participants will discuss the importance of a paradigm shift in leadership, share leadership experiences, discuss possible solutions. And I've already given you my background information. All right, so essential questions. I don't know how many of you remember back in the day, if you are a traditional teacher, meaning that you were in K-12 teaching, how many of you remember essential questions? It just amazes me, like how we just pick up little things, maybe from research or from something else, and then say, hey, everyone needs to use this across the district in your classrooms. Anyway, okay. How can a shift in educational leadership programs enhance the work of teacher education to include inquiry into the content perspectives of the principal competencies and their leadership to the teacher competencies? Ooh, I sound real smart. Essential question number 2, how can educational leadership practice in various environments be researched to the extent that it becomes an essential part of the teaching experience and student success? Pause. The reason why I'm challenging other people to do this as well, because sometimes when we're in a shift in our lives or in a transition, we forget how brilliant we are. So taking these trips back to memory lane, and I'm only on I think the 5th one, I'm already getting a high off of, wow, look at you. So yeah, go back and remember how smart you were so you can realize how smart you currently are. Okay, we're back. So consider this. If I have never been a counselor, can I teach you how to counsel? Can you be a judge without being a lawyer? Do you have to have culinary experience to judge Iron Chef? And Iron Chef was a competition on, I think, like Food Network, where people will cook these, amazing meals using the resources that they only have and different challenges and things like that. And then they would get judged on the competition. And if they were out, they got cut. And anyway, so something like that. And we had a lot of discussion about this because I came into it saying you needed to understand something about mathematics if you're going to be observing and evaluating, that's the right word, observing and evaluating mathematics teachers. You need to know something, right? Now, I went in saying you need to know all of the math. You need to have a mathematics background. But then, of course, that's not really realistic, because at this time, a lot of the administrators were former, and I'm just being honest, physical education teachers. A lot of them were elementary. They had elementary backgrounds, and then they moved up to secondary. A lot of them were reading, and I think, what was the other one? Probably social studies or some sort of elective. So they were, the majority of them were not mathematics or science, or even like if they need, or business elective. They weren't, or technology related. So they were more humanities based versus hard sciences. I think hopefully that makes sense. So consider this. I said, why is that? So should the same be true for K-12 administrators? So people were saying, no, you need to have this experience to do this. And some people were like, no, you don't. You can go in and figure it out when you get there. So then I said paradigm shift. A paradigm shift is our perception of reality, our view of the world. It is our interpretation of events based on previous teachings we have experienced. This is often the opposite of the truth. A paradigm shift means to have a sudden change in perception, a sudden change in point of view, and how you see things. Hopefully, this change will be in the right direction. And you'll see I have references throughout, and this was a quote from I think it was Stephen Covey back in 1989. And then it says the problem. Recently, there has been growing concern for the value-added models, administrators' content knowledge level, and the administrators' ability to be instructional leaders for the shift towards college and career readiness. So value-added models, or VAM, attempt to measure a teacher's impact on student achievement apart from their factors such as individual ability, family environment, past schooling, and the influence of peers. Value-added assessments, and these are quotes. Many states and school districts have adopted value-added models, or VAM, as part of educational accountability systems. The goal of these models, which are referred to as value-added assessment models, is to estimate effects of individual teachers or schools on student achievement while accounting for differences in student background. VAMs are increasingly promoted or mandated as a component in high-stakes decisions such as determining compensation, evaluating and ranking teachers, or hiring or dismissing teachers, awarding tenure, and closing schools. And this was from the American Statistical Association, so ASA 2014. Huge deal. And sometimes people don't understand the background of what happened. So I encourage people to go to school board meetings and understanding the pressures and leaders, when I say leaders, like administrators, have in these schools. And again, at the time of this recording, it is 2021, so I don't really know what's happening, but I do have friends who are in the education system who are administrators at various levels, and they're saying there's still some version of this going on. So do I believe that people need to be evaluated, teachers or just people in a professional space need to be evaluated, observed, to get feedback? Do I believe in assessments and everything like that? Absolutely. The issue has always been how it's being used. So college and career readiness, what is your definition or description of college and career readiness? And obviously I asked the audience. And then this is a definition from Achieve 2015. From an academic perspective, college and career readiness means that a high school graduate has the knowledge and skills in English and mathematics necessary to qualify for and succeed in entry-level, credit-bearing post-secondary coursework without the need for remediation. Or put another way, a high school graduate has the English and math knowledge and skills needed to qualify for and succeed in post-secondary job training and/or education necessary for their chosen career. For example, community college, university, technical or vocational programs, apprenticeships, or significant on-the-job training. Clearly, when I did this presentation, I did not read this. I allowed for the participants to read it. So you see the emphasis is very interesting how there are a lot of things being taught in school, but the main focus has been on English or grammar, or you know what I mean, writing, understanding, speaking English, and mathematics. There is no mention of social studies, science, any electives, or anything like that. So I find that very interesting. And the key thing is without the need for remediation. As a college professor who have seen some things, but you're not doing a good job. So college and career readiness, again, this was from ed.gov. 4 out of every 10 new college students, including half of those at two-year institutions, take remedial courses. and many employers comment on the inadequate preparation of high school graduates. And I don't remember what I have coming on the next slide, but this was a problem for me because it was like so much emphasis on what the teachers weren't doing, and it was like what the students weren't doing, but it's like they're being taught by teachers, so what are the teachers not doing? And then the teachers are being supported by the administrators, so what are the administrators not doing? So a lot of these programs and things were focused on helping students, but I was like, well, who's gonna focus and help the people who are teaching the students and leading the teachers? So the research, general practices, beliefs, and organizational leaders, those were the points I wanted to make. And then the research, do we need content-specific leaders? We're going to talk about pedagogical knowledge, content pedagogical knowledge, and curriculum content knowledge. I did a video earlier in the series about curriculum content knowledge, and then Schulman. So this was back in 1986. I never heard of any of these, and I am a traditionally trained teacher. When I say that, I mean I went to undergraduate. I got a degree in secondary education and a whole nother degree in mathematics. I didn't learn anything about pedagogical. Well, we knew about pedagogy, but what it really meant to have pedagogical knowledge, content pedagogical knowledge, curriculum content knowledge, and it goes deeper than this, and that's why I did part of this for my dissertation. Mind blowing. And this was happening in 1986 and this presentation was in 2015. So it's like a lot of things that we don't understand, a lot of what could be happening in our classrooms or in our preparation programs, because we're ignoring the research behind a lot of things. All right, so the research from Nelson and Sassi, 2005. This was like, these were my people when I was writing my dissertation. So administrators can better support standards-based instruction by shifting their approaches to supervision to attend to the intersection of process and content. In other words, if you know what's happening, if you have a background or some sort of knowledge of what you're looking for when you go and observe and evaluate teachers, it would be a whole lot better than a lot of surface level stuff. Just saying. So again, more research concepts, and this is back in 2003 with Stein and Nelson. Leadership content knowledge and practical judgment. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do my dissertation defense probably after this one. These were huge, I guess, concepts and research concepts when I was studying them, to understand practical judgment and what leadership content knowledge really was. And then looking back on what was happening in the K-12 system, and even as much mathematics as I knew to help those teachers, I came so much better after my dissertation when I went to the district level, that I was like, whoa, we can change the world. Now, everyone didn't see it that way because, you know, when your mind expands and you've been introduced to something, then you go back to people and their mind hasn't expanded. They think you're off, and they think you're showing off. But I was in a place like, whoa, I know how to fix this. Or maybe I couldn't fix the whole system, but at the schools, I was like, whoa, we can fix some things here. And everybody didn't see it that way, but moving right along. All right, so then I asked some questions. Who remembers? I go back for some definitions, because again, you can see, the style of my presentations are becoming more streamlined. This was more than just talking to people. I really wanted people to be more engaged. I didn't want to be just a talking head, because even though, like I said before, the series is relatively small compared to the number of presentations that I did, but that doesn't include when I went to these conferences to do my part. I also attended workshops as well. So I was picking up techniques from other presenters and things like that. So I really wanted to increase my engagement. So then I talk about the administrator lens. What administrators were looking at. So this is what I loved about research and going and get my PhD. You don't have to have a PhD to do research. Of course, you can do research on your own, but a lot of times you would think something is happening, but then your lens is only at your school or at your district. But then when you start doing research and look at how these people are looking at hundreds of people or sometimes thousands of people, hundreds of schools, and they're coming up with these same issues over and over. It's like, see, I knew I wasn't the only one to know that this was a problem. So what this is saying, and excuse me for getting all excited because clearly this is my jam right here. What this is saying is that when administrators go into classrooms, their lens is on classroom management, lesson implementation, and rapport with students. Now, the purpose of this series was interjecting my perspective. Now, as a consultant and coach, this relates to corporate organizations as well, because there's still training and development that's happening at the corporate level. There's still supervisors and managers who are responsible for teams. So when you're going into your, I guess, observing your team, observing your employee or whomever, your team member or the person under you, when you're going and observing them, what are you really looking for? So you can take administrator lens and put manager lens, supervisor lens, CEO lens. What are you looking for? Because are you coming in with your preconceived ideas, or are you really looking for something to help that individual grow so that they can be a better person to get that particular job done? In our case, would they be a better teacher to get that particular job done? And if you're focusing on surface level things such as classroom management, lesson implementation, and rapport with students, are we really getting at the level that we need to get to really solve this mathematical, this lack of mathematical progress? I hope that makes sense. So, not saying that these are not important. That's the thing. We need all of this because you can't have good instruction. Students can't learn if these things aren't there. But if these are the only things that people are looking for, why are we really teaching content at this or specific subjects? All right, I think I just said all of this. I need to contain myself. All right, problem. Recently, there has been a growing concern for the value-added models, administrators' content knowledge level, and the administrators' ability to be instructional leaders for the shift towards college and career readiness. Issue: teacher feedback, hear and see the standards, and student engagement. So perspective, I got this from my one of my college professors, my PhD professors, and she was phenomenal at helping people see content and why you needed to learn this content a certain way. Right? I'll probably get into the background when I do my dissertation presentation. But anyway, so perspective. When asked to justify the solution 3 divided by 1/7, a student said this: change the division sign to multiplication and flip the fraction after the sign. So 3 divided by 1/7 becomes 3 times 7 over 1. So I find 3 over 1 times 7 over 1, which is 21 over 1 or 21. And then I ask the audience, is this an acceptable justification? So in other words, this is keep, change, flip. Keep the first number, change the operation, and flip the second number. I do have to share this story. After I graduated and I went to work with the district level, I was placed in a school, and there was a teacher who was having issues. So the first thing was, let me go observe and see what the issue was. And I had worked with her, gave her some suggestions. I had to learn how to dial it back a little bit. And then she was so excited about this new way to engage students in learning fractions or learning this same exact concept. And when I walked into the room, I saw all of these like little poster signs for KFC. All these chicken buckets hanging up there, little drumsticks hanging down from the ceiling. And I'm like, why does she have all this KFC in here? And my mind went all sorts of ways. So I was like, well, let me just chill. Let me see the lesson about what's happening. And this was middle school. And I think this was like maybe 6th grade, maybe 7th. And at this point, it was like 3rd period. So she had done this twice before I got there. So all these chicken buckets, and I'm looking. I'm like, I still don't get it. She's so excited. Hey, Dr. Glenn, I'm so happy you're here. Just wait. This is so exciting. The kids loved it. I'm like, okay. And she was teaching this concept. So remember, I just told you it is keep, change, flip. That is the procedural way of dividing whole numbers and fractions. She put KFC. because she heard keep, change, flip. And I understand because I am dyslexic. I am a functional dyslexic. And she was excited because she was like, yeah, KFC. I said, but you're not doing KFC, you're doing KCF. So she had done this for 2 periods. So the kids are all going around talking about KFC. So they're keeping, flipping, changing all out of order. And it turned out to be a huge disaster, right? And think about it. If an administrator without just general mathematical knowledge, I don't even think you had to have mathematical knowledge to know at this point, but still to really catch it, because honestly, you hear KFC and then the kids are talking about keep, change, flip, or you got to really be listening to catch that. So that's what, that was my little story of why is it so important to have some sort of subject-based knowledge when an administrator goes and observe and evaluate these classes. So the people out in the audience, a lot of them were already principals, district specialists and things like that. And they were like, yeah, this is good, this is fine. And then in general, yeah, it kind of is. But then it was like, think about this. Another student said, I know there are 7 groups of 1/7 in one whole. Since there are 3 wholes, I have 3 times 7 or 21 groups of 1/7 and 3 wholes. So 3 divided by 1/7 is 21. Then I asked the audience, how is this justification different and what does it have to do with an administrator's paradigm shift? So what was happening, if you don't understand what happened, I don't want to say there's anything wrong with the first way to do this, because that's the procedural way. Look, we got to get stuff done to answer this problem. But for years, and even still now, people don't understand why they're keeping, changing, flipping. People are like, they'll do this, but they're not really understanding what does this really mean or what does this really look like. So when the Common Core State Standards came out and it was like, no, time out for this. We need to know the why, or the students need to know the why. People were in an uproar, especially a lot of parents and guardians were in an uproar because it was like, this is a waste of time. Why does my child need to know this? Here's the relevance. So the development of the Common Core State Standards and other newly created state standards has led to the hope that administrators will focus on the students' interaction with the content instead of solely on teacher moves and best practices. So yes, can the students get the answer to the problem? Yes, but are they engaging like mathematicians? Are they engaging like people who can problem solve? And remember those standards for mathematical practices I talked about in the other series? If not, go check those out. What are students really doing? What are they really learning? And remember, the long-term goal was college and career readiness. So and now that I have K-20 experience, I see this so much clearer now. If a student can only keep, change, flip, and that's all they're doing, when they're presented with the same exact concept, but it's presented in a different way, students are shutting down. And that's what happens in real life. There are no transferable skills. You can figure out how to do a class schedule in high school, but then you act like you are lost and confused when you come to college or when you go apply for a job. It is still similar skill sets, but students are not being taught of looking at this from a broader perspective and looking at the steps regardless of the little nuances or details in the problem. I really hope that makes sense for you. Let me know if that's landing for you. So the issue is being, these kids are coming out of here with 12 years of school, and even if they're not going straight to college, a lot of skill set jobs, vocational jobs, still require students to take like entry exams or certification exams, and they weren't doing well on that. So it was like, what are y'all doing in these schools? So then there was like the blame on the students, but then there was the blame on the teachers, and then it was like, whoa, well, who's supporting the teachers, which are the administrators? All right, so given the new standards, so we're back in relevance. Given the new standards and the shift in content stakes are higher with increased accountability for student learning outcomes than previously experienced by teachers. Therefore, school leaders bear responsibility for teachers' increased effectiveness. So implication for action. Administrators need to build the bridge between understanding the content as well as the operations of a school. A lot of times when people became principals or assistant principals, it was either you're the assistant principal of instruction, which is the coveted position of API, or you are the assistant principal over facilities, or you are an assistant principal over a certain subject area. So you don't know where you're going to be, because when you go get your master's degree in leadership, it's a blanketed leadership. So there were very few places that had specific like specializations in the leadership program. Some had reading leadership. Some people had like some variation of like diversity and inclusion. Some people had ESC or exceptional ed, like kind of, you know, their specialty in the master's program, but nothing really content heavy, like not a science specialist, not a mathematics specialist. I think the University of Central Florida at the time had something to where it was math and science related, but I don't even think it was leadership. I think it was just another type of special master's degree. So I'm talking about a lot of people go get their master's in leadership, organization leadership, education leadership, and I have a master's in ed leadership, and then I have a specialist in technology management administration. But still, there was no like content in there. That's why I got my PhD in the field that I got it, because I wanted something content focused, just like my undergrad. So the mathematics and education are sandwiched between leadership and technology and administration. And think about it like this. Administrators, yes, they go through all the school, they go through all their undergraduate, whatever they're majoring in, then they go get a master's. A lot of them are so removed from the content that they're teaching, and then they're thrown into these schools and say, hey, go observe this teacher, support that teacher, and then by the way, you're responsible for how that teacher teaches and what their students score on those exams, and that's going to impact your salary and your position. That's the main problem. So I go back to the essential questions. Wait, did I read this? Oh, implications for action. Recommendations will be developed for administrative preparation programs in school districts and other administrator preparation programs at the university level to enhance teachers' effectiveness based on the findings of the research. So what I did was, and again, at this point, I'm in research mode. I had been researching this since I went to my doc program after I left being an instructional coach. I've been researching this. So part of my research was looking at the programs or the coursework for so many master level leadership preparation programs. And it was rare if I found one with a specialty, and it was even more rare to find one with a content specific focus. So the essential question was, how can a shift in educational leadership programs enhance the work? I think I just read this, but I'll read it again. Enhance the work of teacher education to include inquiry into the content perspectives of the principal competencies and their relationship for the teacher competencies. In the leadership programs, you had to follow, everyone had to graduate with understanding certain competencies. So then it was like, whatever they had to learn, did it relate to what the teachers were being prepared to learn, right? Was there some kind of overlap? And then essential question 2, again, circling back around, how can educational leadership practice in various environments be researched to the extent that it becomes an essential part of the teaching experience and student success? I'll just say this because I don't think I mentioned, this is not in this one, it'll be in the video I do for my dissertation. Leaders had 25% impact on student success. So a lot of focus was on, oh, the kid isn't learning, it's the teacher. And granted, yes, because that is the first line of defense. It is the teacher. However, people were not focusing on the impact that the leader, the administrator, had on the student. How do they have impact on the student? Some people were like, oh, let the administrator show up and build relationships with students. Absolutely. But it was what the administrator, how they were supporting that teacher that had the impact on the student. How does this relate now as an transformational coach and working with executive clients? If you are the leader of whatever organization or company, and let's say you are at the top, but then you have managers and then you have people under you, your role is to support those managers. What you do to support those managers and how you get them to be at a higher level directly impacts the people under them. So if you want your company to grow and maybe you're not interacting directly with the employees, your biggest impact is with these people, your middle people, your middle managers, supervisors, because how you support them raises the productivity of the employees, the workers, or even the students. So again, that was related to college and career readiness, because the leaders, they have to have long-term vision. It's not just, let me make sure I get this school score up. You're impacting how the students are going to perform when they get to college, if they're going to vocational and then later to college, or straight into careers, because a lot of these businesses were like, what are y'all doing? And honestly, that is why you get now, you have so many people coming out with their own courses. You have places like Mind Valley. You have all of these other people, leadership institutes, because they're bypassing a lot of these and going straight to the source and saying you need to have a different or a broader perspective of what it means to be a true leader. All right, and then I go back over the participant goals, discuss the importance of a paradigm shift in leadership, shared leadership experiences, and discuss possible solutions. Again, I wasn't just a talking head. There was a lot of discussion, which I hope for you that you come back and put some discussion and let me know your thoughts, whether you agree or disagree with what I'm saying. And again, I have a lot of references, and I'm going to stop share. And then I say, I thank the people for participating. And be honest, this touched a nerve. And I had already done some smaller versions of this presentation at other conferences, like regional conferences, some state conferences. But to go at a national conference where this particular organization is based on preparing teachers at the collegiate level and preparing leaders, and I was essentially calling out that we're doing a disservice on how we're preparing our leaders and our teachers, but mostly our leaders. And some people were not happy. A lot of people were not happy. I got a lot of backlash, but they can argue with the research. And what happens, sometimes we get we get into these positions just with our perspective and our experiences. And the good thing about research is a lot of this is objective, and they're going out getting random people to do these questions and studies, and they're collecting data. And it's like, you can't really argue with data and numbers. Well, I mean, you can, but understanding research is like, look, these are not my own personal thoughts and opinions. This is what's happening out there in the world or in the field. And so I did this dissertation. I really wanted this to be part of what I did as a consultant, but I kind of let it die down, because after my experience in my PhD program, I was like, forget it. I'm over it. And then I tried to be a consultant after I graduated, and people weren't listening. But now as a coach, it strengthened my desire to really help leaders in high positions. And yeah, I work with other types of people as well, but I am seeing the impact and the importance of, if we can get you solid in some areas, and then if you can relate to the people that you are leading or managing or supervising, oh my gosh, think of the impact that you can have on your larger organization. And I still consider schools organizations as well. So that is, I had fun down this trip, on this trip down memory lane. And I'll do my dissertation one coming up, and it'll tie in this one. But I still hope you learned something from this. I've done this presentation again for other national organizations, for charter schools. I've done this for other universities. I tweak little things every now and then, because leadership content knowledge is huge. And I wanted to share that with someone who may also take it and run with it as well. All right, I showed you my references. If you need more information, let me know. And yeah, thank you. And I want to encourage you, it's not too late to jump on the evolution of career wagon. Go back and look at your presentations, your resume, your Vita. If you did some talks and things that you came up with your own, make a video about it, because you may not be doing that work now, but somebody could benefit from it today. All right, so I am Dr. V. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me and taking this trip on the evolution of my career. And I hope you remember this: to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Until next time, bye.